Remember when the story actually started, and I remember I was one of the journalists who actually broke the story on Aror Kimore. And the issue then, as per the Director of Criminal Investigation, was that the country had lost 21 billion shillings. And the Deputy President came out and said, we have actually lost 7 billion. And yesterday he was able to clarify and said, I talked about the 7 billion that had been insured, that we expected the company that insured to have refunded that money. And
he later said, then we stand to lose that 7 billion.
Yes.
The figure that Raila also said a few days later after that, after him pronouncing himself that 7 billion isn't a figure to just throw
around. Yes.
It's a big amount.
Yes, and even now that the case is active in court, we still need to know as Kenyans,
right,
how much did we lose? How much did the government pay? Because if you look at the reports that have been coming out that actually domicile within the government corridors, we're talking about losing a lot, because remember again, there are clauses that were attached to that project that if we did not honor our side, we were actually going to pay more than even the cost of the dam project. So I'm actually thinking maybe once the court has cleared the case, we might even pay more depending on which side the case goes.
Speaking of paying, there's the question of SGR contract that also came up, and the question thrown at him as being the deputy president and whether or not he pushed the government that he's part of to disclose this contract. This question will not go away, the SGR contract question.
I think it will not go away, because you remember you even asked the president about the contract, and he actually promised you to get the contract.
The following day. And let's just say it's been a long day.
Yes, and you're still waiting
on that day.
Yeah, and the Access to Information Act actually gives you the power and the public the power to actually demand and put the government to task to actually make it public. And I think this is one of the pending questions that even as President Uhuru vacates office, every Kenyan will ask him. We signed this contract because at a particular time, remember there was a report that came before the Public Investment Committee in the National Assembly, and they were saying that the Mombasa port had been used as a collateral, that if we failed to pay back the SGR, then the Chinese will actually take our ports.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to go back in terms of the reasoning behind not showing up for the debate for Raila Odinga, perhaps there's a strategy for the planning team that someone would look at it and say, being associated now with the current government and the closeness with the president, not being able to fully defend some of the issues and some of the concerns of why we are where we are as a country. So just to be safe, staying away from that debate and not having to answer that question.
Repeatedly, we've always been talking about the burden of incumbency.
Right.
And I think that is what the deputy president was trying to portray. That yes, I'm in this government, but with the handshake, I was kicked out. It was a nusu mkate between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And because of that, Raila carries the baggage and the ills of the Jubilee administration, because Ruto is able to run away with it and said, I've been there, but I've been in the periphery.
Right.
These people have actually been inside. And that is some of the things people are saying, that even if Raila will have turned up for that meeting, then those are some of the questions that will have actually come out, that yes, you are in this government. You had the deputy president talking about the Kemsa East, which means that he was actually tying it, that this is something that came up under the handshake. So Raila should have been able to speak about it. We have the other day that we had the issue of the KU land, which is in courts, and we are yet to hear the handshake partners actually talk about it. I am sure if we had a strong opposition, then the conversation will have gone differently, because we will have asked the tough questions. What does the Constitution say? Compulsory acquisition. What is the process of acquiring land, and for what purpose? Because our law is very clear. Land has been a very emotive issue, and that is why even in the Constitution we have the National Lands Commission and we have the ministry, where all these institutions, their roles are cut out to ensure that no land is actually given as we had in the previous regimes.
Well, and the president, the incumbent, has been very clear. He has a few more weeks to go, so he has some things to do, and he will do what he can in his power in terms of his agenda.
And he has to do it because, remember, he has served 10 years.
Right.
And even as he leaves, Kenyans will ask, what have you done? There is the issue of corruption. And for me, as a journalist and maybe as a Kenyan, one of the issues that I expected my colleagues to have asked the deputy president. Remember, under Jubilee administration, we floated 2 Eurobonds, where the first Eurobond, we were not able to account for the 250 billion that we floated. And the second one, under the same Jubilee administration, we had NYS1 and NYS2. So these are some of the questions that Kenya will actually ask, that even as we struggle with this national debt, the ballooning wage bill, and everybody giving us solutions to how to address our debt, are we forgetting about the corruptions that we have had? And are they promising that they will actually go after those people? Remember, President Uhuru himself at State House admitted and told the former Auditor General that he should stop pursuing the Eurobond. Remember when that issue, he wanted to go and pursue the money and just look at it, how much, where was it spent? It was an issue. So I think those are some of the things we should have asked the Deputy President, including claims by the President that we lose 2 billion every day.
And granted, something else many other stakeholders in different sectors felt that should have been addressed. I mean, so little time to address everything, but healthcare and education, sector players and leaders feeling that that was not addressed even at all in the debate because so much time was spent on issues.
And I think it will have been very important, especially on the issue of education, because this issue of competency-based curriculum has been a thorn. It has been a discussion in campaign trails. At some point, the Kenya Kwanza camp had said they will not support it and they'll do away with it. Then later on, they changed and backtracked and they said, now we are going to support it. So I think that will have been a good opportunity for the panel to have asked the moderators to have asked the Deputy President, now that you support CBC, how are you going to ensure it is implemented? Remember, we are having issues of lack of infrastructure. We are having people double intake of students later this year, early next year, in 2024. We are having the issue of teachers who have not been employed and trained through the CBC process. So I think these are some of the issues that he should have actually told Kenyans that now that I support CBC, how am I going to implement it? How am I going to address the issue of education? When it comes to the issue of healthcare, we've been talking about the NHIF, the enhanced NHIF, and I think that is why the Jubilee administration pushed for the passing of the amendments to the NHIF Act. And it's talked about how he'll ensure everybody get affordable healthcare. I think those are issues that he should have actually tackled and told us, yes, you have a very classy manifesto, but the implementation has always been the problem. Remember,